Hello, everyone. This is Sarah Jane Ruggles, and I am the project coordinator for the Edmonds Community Oral History Project. Um, I am narrating the slideshow that was shown at the April 8th meeting of the volunteers at the Edmonds Edmonds Historical Museum. That meeting was held from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. and we covered some great topics. Basically, what we wanted to cover with this meeting and this presentation is we want to take the overall um, education that you've received on how to conduct oral histories and the theory and practices behind the science of oral history. You've already obtained that knowledge through our previous training materials that we've sent out, and also through the workshop that was provided by the Library of Congress. And we want to take that knowledge and now help you understand how we are going to be operating our own community oral history project. So basically what you all know about oral history and talk about it in the context of the Edmonds project specifically. So Edmonds Community Oral History Project, where community and history come together. This presentation was given by myself and Katie Kelly, who is the director of the Edmonds Historical Museum. The topics discussed today, I'm going to be discussing the project overview, also introducing you to the administrative team, which as of right now is Katie and myself. Also, I want to discuss how our project is going to set up a communication system and the processes we will have, and also address some frequently asked questions. Obviously, during the meeting, we had a live question and answer session, but I'll try to anticipate any questions and try and recall questions that might have come up during the program. Basically, one of the first things I want to explain is that we are very much still in the planning stages, and so everything that we have is not perfectly finalized yet. It should be very soon, but we're still piecing together some of the last minute details. But we have most of the project in place, and that's what I'm sharing with you today. So our project overview. The Edmonds Community Oral History Project is a volunteer-based project that is designed with two objectives: to collect the story of Edmonds from its own residents and to encourage a sense of community by training citizens to interview their neighbors while giving residents a unique opportunity to collaborate with the Historical Museum and build their archives. The project will spend the first year focused on wartime memories of Edmonds. It's important to note at this juncture that we are not collecting wartime memories of Edmonds does not mean that we are focusing specifically on veterans. While obviously we are reaching out to the veteran community, we are also looking to record the oral histories of family members of servicemen and women, local Edmonds residents who recall what it was like in Edmonds during wartime, or different ways in which residents served on the home front. So there's a wider range of stories we are taking in that extend farther from veterans, from the sphere of veteran circles, and we'll explain to you how we're going to set that up here in the next coming slides. Next is the project overview continued. So we're going to talk now about our project partnerships. Obviously, our main partnership is with the Edmonds Historical Museum. We are currently a special project of the Edmonds Historical Museum, and we're hoping to turn the Edmonds Community Oral History Project into a self-sustaining program of the Edmonds South Snohomish County Historical Society and Museum. And the next partnership is with the Veterans History Project at the Library of Congress. We partnered with them in terms of, first of all, providing formal training to all of our volunteers, which took place on March 11th, 2017. And furthermore, we will be partnering with them as a repository for all of our oral history interviews that are conducted with veterans. Now, since the Library of Congress is the Veterans History Project is only housing interviews that are conducted directly with veterans at this time, they cannot accept oral history interviews currently that are conducted with anybody outside of that sphere. So they are not able to accept the interviews. For example, if we were to interview the wife of a service member, or the husband of a service member, or the child of a service member, they could not accept that oral history at this time. Which brings us to our secondary partnership with the University of Washington Special Collections at the University of Washington Libraries. They will be professionally archiving all of our histories that are not recorded with veterans. This is a huge partnership for the Edmonds Historical Museum because after the first year, we hope to expand our content, which I'll explain a little bit more, but expand our content of the stories that of the oral history interviews we're conducting, and look into broader concepts of Edmonds history. And having a partnership with the University of Washington to archive our stories ensures that no matter what subject of Edmonds history that we're recording or that we're interviewing on, it will have a permanent, professionally archived home at the University of Washington. Next, I want to talk about the timeline. In November 2016, Katie and myself, we gave a presentation to the Edmonds South Snohomish County Historical Society Museum Board of Directors, and they approved the planning of the Edmonds Community Oral History Project. In March and April of 2017, we've reached out to our volunteers and we held the formal training, and we are holding the ongoing meetings, basically getting our processes put into place and filing our grant applications for our equipment. That will be done at the end of April. Depending on how soon we can be approved for a grant and get our equipment will help us understand how soon we can begin recording. We are hoping to get our equipment and begin recording interviews by this summer, which means possibly early June we're shooting for, depending on when we can get our equipment. And then by November 2017, we're going to see where we're at as far as the efficiency of our processes, how we're looking as far as our protocols, if we need to tweak our structure to try and make sure that we are efficiently creating processes that work for our narrators as well as our volunteers. And if we have a good project structure in place, then we can expand to take in a broader subject matter of Edmonds history. And then we hope to begin the new year as a sustainable program of the Edmonds Historical Museum. Now we want to meet the team. On the left of the screen is Katie Kelly, and she is the director of the Edmonds Historical Museum. She has a BA in history from Oglethorpe University in Atlanta, Georgia, and began working as the collections manager at the Edmonds Historical Museum in 2009 and has earned her position as the museum director. She is a fount of knowledge in all things Edmonds history and a huge asset to our project and to the city of Edmonds and to the Edmonds Historical Museum. So we are very, very honored to work with her. On the right is myself, in the middle there, and my husband Justin and my daughter Emmeline. I graduated from Boise State University in 2010 with my bachelor's degree in history and a minor in classical Latin literature. And I moved to the Seattle area from North Idaho, where both my husband and I are from, in 2015 with our daughter. And I went back to graduate school that year, and I am attending the University of Nebraska, Kearney, and earning my master's degree in public history. This project is the basis of my thesis research, and I am studying ways in which communities can reach out and form a collective identity through collecting their own histories. And much of that research is focused on the science of oral history and creating a universal oral history project structure that can be implemented in different communities around the country. So this project means it means the world to me, and I look forward to working with everybody on it and making a difference for Edmonds history. So our communication and processes. Katie and I have set up an account for all of our volunteers on slack.com. Now, if you're not familiar with Slack, that's okay. We'll work with everybody on it. But basically, Slack is an online user interface for volunteers. You can log on and here's a snapshot or a screenshot of what it looks like. Now, I set it up as an administrator. I don't know if this is what it will look like specifically for you, but Slack will serve as an online meeting place where we will have discussion boards. I will post all of the project documents, so all the release forms, all of the biography forms, everything you're going to need as an interviewer, you can find on slack.com. I will upload it onto our site. You can also contact Kelly and myself with direct questions, and we can answer you back quickly. You can see down the URL is edmondsoralhistory.slack.com. The way to sign up is I will have to go into Slack and send you an email invitation to join. So I'm going to be working on that in the next week or so. So look in your email accounts for an invitation to join Slack. If you do not feel comfortable with joining it and you do not feel comfortable with having your information out there, although I think it's just a username, please let me know. You are absolutely free to not be involved in this part of it, and I will ensure your confidentiality should you require that. So now we're going to look at the basic communication and processes of the interview and publishing process. This is from start to finish how we envision our project to conduct itself. So basically, with the initial contact, an interviewer will be paired up with a narrator through myself. I have, because I'm the sole contact person right now, I have a database of my project volunteers, and I also have a database of people who are interested. I'm building a database of people who are interested in sharing their stories with the ECOHP. So what I will do is I will pair an interviewer and a narrator up. I will also pair a production volunteer up with the interviewer, because we're going to have two volunteers at each oral history interview. One volunteer will conduct the oral history interview, and the other volunteer will operate the recording equipment and fill out the interview log. And which is basically, and we'll go over these documents at a later date, but an interview log is, first of all, it's required by the Veterans History Project, but it's basically a log of what are the subjects that are discussed and at what points in time are they discussed in the interview. So the interviewer will connect with the narrator and have what's called a pre-interview meeting. I know you guys talked about this in the workshop on March 11th. This is a very important part of the process. This is when you will sit down with your narrator and talk to them about what kind of history they want to share, who their audience is, and you really form a connection with your narrator as far as building a relationship where they feel comfortable talking about their life experiences, their most personal life experiences with you. It's a very important step in the process. At this meeting, you will also discuss the release forms, help them understand the legalities of who has the rights to their oral histories, and we will do further training on that in the future. So don't worry about that at this time. At the pre-interview meeting, you will then schedule your oral history interview. I am in the process of creating a list of potential locations in and around Edmonds that you can reserve. These are private meeting rooms at, say, Edmonds Library, Linwood Library. I'm looking at the Center for the Arts to see if they have meeting rooms that are quiet and professional, neutral locations to meet with good acoustics that are conducive to recording. And at that time, the production volunteer will, before the interview, they will check out the equipment from the Historical Museum. All of the recording equipment will be housed at the Historical Museum. They will check that out, and you as the interviewer and the production volunteer will go to the interview together and conduct your oral history interview. It is at this time that you will have the narrator physically sign the release forms. After the interview is done, either the interviewer or the production volunteer will check in the equipment along with the signed release forms and the interview log at their earliest convenience to the museum. If you are wondering about the production volunteer and who those people are, what we've done is on your volunteer information form, you checked off different ways you'd like to be involved. And one of those options was to be involved by recording the interview. I've made a list of all the people who said they would be willing to record an interview. And we are going to be holding a separate training for those people once we get our equipment with Jean Weismiller, who's one of our volunteers and has an extensive background in video broadcasting and recording. and he has been gracious enough to volunteer to lead that workshop once we get our equipment, and train people on how to use our equipment kits so they're not intimidated when the time comes to actually interview. So again, these are things that we will be addressing as we move down the road. You don't have to know this right now as far as how to work a camera. So we will work on all this with you. Next, so after you turn in the equipment, the release forms, and the interview log to the museum staff will check all this in. They will make sure the equipment is, the equipment kits are put back in order. They will make sure that all the batteries are placed on chargers, and they will ensure that the raw footage is put onto an external hard drive that will be dedicated specifically to this project. That will also be housed at the museum. At that point, Sarah Jane, will collect the materials and send them to either the Library of Congress or the University of Washington, and process them based on each repository's specific requirements for how they will accept these oral history donations. Now, the University of Washington requires that all oral history interviews be transcribed. So this is where we will need volunteers to do transcriptions of the interviews, and I know a couple of you guys marked that you would be willing to volunteer in that capacity, and we are very thankful for that. Also, if you know anyone who would like to be involved in the project but maybe conducting an interview is outside of their comfort zone, maybe let them know that we are looking for volunteers to transcribe, and that might be something they would be interested in. We'd be happy to involve them in that way, and we would be very thankful for their time. Next, publishing. So publishing is the last phase of the process. What happens is the repository will go through its own processing procedures, and they will publish the interviews onto their own online archives. At that time, the repository, whether it be the Library of Congress or the University of Washington, will send the museum a link to that online archived file. And the museum will then place that link on their own website. And it will give full credit to the repository, the narrator, and the interviewer production team that conducted the interview. So that is how the museum will will house the information on their own website. So to be clear, the museum will not be the main archive for the processed oral history interviews. They will be archived permanently either at the Library of Congress or the University of Washington, and the museum will have a link to each interview on their website. I hope that makes sense. If anybody has any questions about the process, please contact me and we will continue to talk about the process as we move forward. As far as communication goes, we discussed at the April 8th meeting the fact that to be a sustainable program of the Edmond South Snohomish County Historical Society Museum, we would like to have ongoing meetings of the ECOHP group to make sure that we are keeping everyone up to date on developments in the project and the different different steps we're taking, maybe new information, new continuing education material, things like that. And also, if anybody has questions about specific experiences they're having with their oral histories. If they have questions, it's a safe place to come and ask those questions. At the meeting, it was agreed upon that we would try to meet on every second Saturday of the month. So I believe that means the next meeting would be May 13th at 10 a.m. So that is on the schedule for the next meeting. At that meeting, we will be discussing more of the legalities. I'd hope to go through the legal forms with everybody, help people understand what the narrator's rights are, what your rights are as interviewers, and that will be the subject of the next meeting. So this will be an ongoing way for us to continue to communicate, to meet, and I think it will be a valuable opportunity for us to keep communicating. Common questions. Let's see. I'm sorry for the background noise. My large dog is sitting next to me. Let's see here. Okay, so how long does it take for the interviews to be published by the repository in the museum? Basically, anything in oral history is not a quick process. It is a time-consuming art, and that includes the processing. Anything that is donated to the Library of Congress, they have informed me that they are backlogged about 6 months before it will be published to their archive. The University of Washington, I don't think it will take 6 months. However, I know that they are still backlogged. So it's not going to be a very quick process. We will continue to conduct interviews, but I think it'll be at least 6 months until we see our first interviews formally published. So I hope that gives you a better idea of how quickly to expect to see these online. Can we submit an interview that is not coordinated by the ECOHP team? Absolutely. The Edmonds Historical Museum, the Veterans History Project, and the University of Washington are all always open to donations of oral history interviews. They're used to it. Especially the Veterans History Project, they rely on the public to donate their oral history interviews, and that's what is the basis of their archives. So please don't feel pressured if you have somebody that you want to interview and say you don't want to wait until we can get our equipment this summer. Please don't hesitate. Take the information that we've given you and conduct your own oral history interviews, and please don't feel pressured that we would never put any pressures of exclusivity on you should you want to conduct an oral history interview outside of the project. Can we use our own equipment? Unfortunately, if you're doing any interviewing on behalf of the project, we do need to ensure that we're using our own equipment, just so we can ensure an even standard of quality, and just ensure that we're following the same practices and protocols for each interview. How do we get the information and the release forms that we need for interviews? Again, this will be on the slack.com. I will be uploading these forms as I get finalized release forms from the repositories, and all of our specific forms that we will need, which we will do further training on down the road. I want to get more involved in the museum. How can I do that? I would always contact Katie Kelly. She is very knowledgeable of the fact of all the different ways that the museum is looking for volunteers. I know that the way I got involved with the museum initially was by going in once a week and taking their oral history transcripts and scanning them into their database. Um, just that basic assistance of helping them digitize their archives is a huge help. So it doesn't have to be a lot. I know they have a lot of events coming up. The summer market, they're always looking for volunteers for that. So if you'd like to get more involved with the museum, there are always opportunities to do that. And she can also send you information on becoming a museum member should you be interested in that as well. So, most important, I really, really want to say thank you on behalf of myself, the museum, and future generations, uh, especially on behalf of future generations who don't even know that they are indebted to you yet. Um, we just thank you so much for spending the time and energy and efforts to come out and do this and help us record the Edmonds history. We could not do it without you. So thank you very, very much. I know it says next meeting on here. That was when we talked about um, the ongoing meeting situation at the April 8th gathering. So if you have any questions, please send me an email. And otherwise, I will be emailing everybody with a location for the May 13th meeting. We decided we wouldn't be holding it at the Edmonds Historical Museum because the summer market would be in full bloom. And we just want to make sure that we're at a location where there's going to be adequate parking, a quiet venue, and not a lot of distractions happening. The meeting would not last longer than an hour, I would suspect. And yeah, we look forward to seeing everybody there who can make it. If not, we'll be starting to take meeting minutes at the next meeting, so we will have documentation for you to stay up to date on group developments. So thank you very much again for your time, and we hope to see you all soon. Take care.